Return to Silent Hill managed to destroy one of the best horror story ever told, and at the same time, the movie genre as a whole thing. Welcome back to the Italian Film Buff podcast. How are you doing? Today I gave up my usual setup with the lights and everything. I wanna really chill recording this podcast. Has been raining for a month. Like in Dublin, there was a storm. Part of my ceiling fell off in the kitchen. Everything that could happen happened. But anyway, I'm here chilling with you and I want to talk to you about Return to Silent Hill. Probably you have heard already some stuff about it. I've watched it last week, end of last week. I forced myself to go. I gotta be honest, I forced myself. I made a mission out of watching this movie that I knew it was bad. I knew it. But anyway, I was like, I gotta do it. I gotta watch it, and once I watch it, I'm gonna be sad. But anyway, I want to talk to you about this movie following two kind of perspective, because I read some comment online that were like on the line of, oh, those nerds talking about video game adaptation, they are annoying, stuff like that. But the thing is that this movie is bad as a movie per se, is a bad as a genre in the genre of horror movies, and it is awful as an adaptation. He managed to cross every single check on the list and succeed to be terrible in each one of those. I gotta be honest, it is one of the worst movies that I ever seen in my life. It's terrible. And I'm gonna talk to you about this, trying to go through each angle, each of the three angles on the list, because I think it's a bad as a movie per se, I think it's a bad as a cinema, and I think it's bad as an adaptation, and an adaptation of one of the best horror story ever told. And I'm gonna explain you why. It doesn't matter if you know the game or not. I think it's just plain bad, and I'm gonna explain why I think this. Let's start from the basic part, the movie itself. So I'm not going to make any reference to Silent Hill, the actual source material. Let's forget about it. Let's just talk about as a movie, as a genre movie, as a horror movie. So in the last few years, we had this renaissance of the genre. Maybe some of you, they don't remember it because maybe they are too young, or some of you, they really remember it. But basically, after the new Hollywood in the 70s and in the 80s with John Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, even Spielberg itself, he made Jaws, he made some extraordinary, Jaws itself is a great genre movie, even if it's not like an horror per se. But anyway, we had so many auteurs that through genre, they basically brought what we now call as elevated cinema in a way, so a form of elevated great storytelling, because before horror genre movie were sort like of for grindhouse, those kind of stuff, commercial movie for people that goes to watch a couple of movies per night and they have fun with popcorn. They were kind of popcorn movies, but the new Hollywood elevated the genre. So even if we think about Romero creating the zombie, he created a form of elevated horror in a way, because it was very social, and he created the zombie as one of the most interesting and amazing monster to basically criticize the world we're living in. And it was an amazing job, an amazing effort in pursuing genre and making great art with those movies. It was amazing. So we have those huge auteurs, and then since those movies started to really captivated the audience, Hollywood, what it does Hollywood, so basically everything became super commercial, and when everything became commercial, the quality starts to goes down. We have seen this with everything, even with comedy were cheap, and they were making a lot of money. And of course, we burn out comedies, making that tons of it, and people burned out and didn't care anymore at some point. And the same happened with the horror genre. But then in the recent year, we have so many A24 kind of horror movies. We had Oz Perkins, I believe is Longlegs. It's fantastic in any way, shape, or form. We have Hereditary, Aster. We had so many. I can think about The Lighthouse. I can think about The Witch. Eggers. Eggers is a great author. We had Jordan Peele with Get Out, and that Nope. Nope is fantastic. I believe he made an amazing job with that movie. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Every single part of it. Anyway, we have this renaissance of the genre, and we had so many great horror movies. I want to think about. I'm gonna talk about it in another episode. But Nia da Costa, she's brilliant, and she made 20 years later the Bone Temple. Even if the screenplay is from Alex Garland, that wrote the whole trilogy, but I think is superior to the first movie shot by Danny Boyle. I think it's far superior artistically. As speaking of the way he's directed, the mise-en-scene. We had Sinners recently, another amazing. Ryan Coogler made an amazing artistic effort in shooting and directing and in writing that movie. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. And so horror movies shifted from something that was very kind of popular in the worst way possible, because it was just kind of a cheap entertainment, to shift into something more elevated in a way. But it was just cinema, and we had master before. If we think about, I don't know, David Lynch in the 90s, I talk about it in the Halloween special. But if we think about Fire Walk with Me, it's an extraordinary psychological horror, and it was a big inspiration. But we're gonna talk about it later, because I'm just talking about cinema. I don't want to mention the source material. So this movie, now finally we're reaching the moment where we talk about actually the horror movie itself. Even if I should mention Wes Craven and Scream as a kind of a sort of way to make a sort of a parody or criticize the whole genre as something that has been decoded and became just commercial and stuff like that. But anyway, let's move forward. And watching this Return to Silent Hill, it was like stepping into a time machine, because suddenly I was transported back in time to the early 2000s, when those horror movies were just like this. And when we were like, oh, let's watch an horror movie. When I was saying, let's watch an horror movies with friend, I was a really enthusiast. I was an enthusiast of horror film, but I never could make my friend watch a really good horror movie, because they just wanted to watch the cheap, entertaining, and funny horror movie that we had in cinema back then. If we even go back and check the kind of horror movie that were released. If we go to 28 Days Later by Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, it was really an exception. Okay, it was something completely an anomaly in the panorama, because it was brilliant, and that was not the general quality in the genre. So I went back to that moment in time, because the movie, it's pretty cheap in the way it's directed, and it's badly written, and it's so cliche and uninspired that I don't know where to start from. Because the general idea that the audience had and the producer had was basically that Christoph Gans, the director of this movie, was returning to Silent Hill, because the first movie, the first adaptation, but forget about the actual movie, we're we're gonna talk about it later, was kind of successful. But if you go back in time, speaking of reception, it was kind of mid towards kind of negative. The critics didn't like the movie per se, because actually, if you go back and watch it, it's just a mediocre piece of film. It's not that brilliant. It's kind of mediocrity. It's very mediocre as a movie. But speaking of that kind of movie, it was kind of fine. I mean, in the spectrum of the video game adaptation, it was a good movie. Everybody enjoy it. I mean, the fun of the Silent Hill one, like, okay, it's kind of fair. But I remember I went to the cinema, it was kind of okay. It wasn't that exceptional. And rewatching it, it's still kind of okay. It's a decent movie. The bright side there was the screenplay. And the screenplay, it's a decent screenplay because it was by Roger Avary. I don't know if you know who he is, but he is the guy who wrote the story with Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction. And he wrote other films. He didn't spend much time into the screenwriting as a career, but what he has done, it's good. And at the end of the day, he knows how to write a good story. And so that's why the movie, we need to give much credit to him. But in this time, we had Christoph Gans co-writing the movie with other two screenwriters. And the writing of the film is one of the worst thing of Return to Silent Hill. It's really bad. And why it is bad? Because the movie has every cliche on the book. So what it is, the story is about this guy called James. His girlfriend, not even wife, his girlfriend dies of a weird disease, and he goes back to Silent Hill because he received a letter that says that she's there and he needs to kind of save her, or at least go and check where she is. And when he goes back to Silent Hill, well, we know that he's an alcoholic, he's consuming a lot of alcohol. We know that he's in therapy because there is a huge part with the therapist. And plus, the movie starts with this flashback of him meeting Mary, his girlfriend, okay? And it's very... we're gonna talk about the quality later. But anyway, we start with this very cheerful, in a way, story about them falling in love. But this side, because we are gonna have a lot of flashback about them falling in love, it's very cliche. He's a painter and he's so everything is so bright and everything is so meaningless because it's so over the top and kind of I don't know how can I say this. It's very dreamlike, but not in a good way. It's dreamlike in the sense that it's very childish the way they fall in love and the way they are in love. And once he's in Silent Hill and he starts with nightmares, we see those monsters going around, and we have these sirens, like in the first movie, shaping Silent Hill to be something like turn from a like abandoned place into a nightmarish place where those monsters try to kill him. And he starts to navigate the city and he starts to have those flashbacks about their story. And the whole thing is that he needs to save her because of the decision that he took at the beginning of the movie led to her demise in a way. But I'm not gonna spoil stuff, but anyway, at the end of the day, let's say, oh fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna spoil it. I'm sorry, because in order to criticize the writing, I have to spoil it. Sorry, I'm gonna spoil the movie. I'm not going to spoil the game. But anyway, the thing is that he killed his wife, his girlfriend, and he killed her while she was sick because she asked him to do it. And he has this sense of guilt, not because he killed her, but because he abandoned her, because she was poisoned. That's why she was dying, because the poison she received to make a ritual. She was at the center of a ritual, because the whole town is weird just because they make rituals. There is this sort of cult created by her father, and the cult was just using her to make those rituals, and they gave her this poison and she started to bleed everywhere, and they were like drinking her blood and stuff like that. And the way he found out about this, it's so bonkers and so nonsense, and it doesn't make any. I mean, it's so over the top in a funny way, not in a horrific way. There is no poetry, speaking of horror, that the whole thing, you can't believe it. And basically, the regret that he has is that he left her because she didn't want to come with him when he said, let's leave Silent Hill. The discussion that they have, it's insane, because he goes like, let's leave Silent Hill. And she goes like, no, but you told me to move back here. And it was like, but let's leave now. And she's like, no. And they have this Zoolander-like kind of dialogue that doesn't make any sense. And he dumps her, and then she dies, and he goes to meet her just because she's dying, and he's depressed that he dumped her, and then he kills her. And then the whole thing, is like a Superman winding back time. So the whole thing about Silent Hill, it's a way to redeem himself and like save her and change the past. It's something like that. It is so stupid, and it's so full of cliche with this cult, and she's the poor soul, she needs to be saved, the girl in the castle that needed to be saved, and he's so sad because he didn't save her, and their love was so pure and perfect. It's so fucking stupid, the whole thing. It's so sappy and pathetic and ridiculous, also because you don't feel any empathy for them, because their love story, it's not relatable, because it's based on moments, fragment of memories that are completely, they don't build the connection between those two characters. And plus, they are just dating for a while, and then they move together very suddenly, and you don't get the relationship. It's just there because yes. And since the writing, you don't have no connection, and the horror is in no way connected to what they're telling you. What I mean is that, okay, this is the thing. Even when you build a horror story, you gotta give meaning to it. I mean, let's take, for example, I don't know, Get Out. Get Out, you have a connection because it's a guy, a black guy, dating a white woman, and you know what does this mean in society, this kind of relationship, and how sometimes can be hard for a black guy go to the parents of the white girl, that maybe they can have some kind of preconception about racial kind of preconception. How difficult this is still difficult today, and this kind of thing turns into a real nightmare with everything that happened in Get Out, because there is the idea of slavery that goes beyond the body, and it goes in the idea of the mind, and the way he's kind of groomed to be part of this thing. It's so chilling and so horrifying that you can't relate to the main character. Doesn't matter if you're black or not, because the horror is built in a way that you understand his point of view, and you understand everything, and even the way that the sequence, the horror sequence, the awkwardness, the whatever is weird, it connects really well with the, let's say, theme of real life. So the idea there is a black guy and he's feeling maybe uncomfortable because he doesn't know if they are okay with this, if they are any racial kind of stereotypes, and they look at him in a different way, and maybe they make him feel uncomfortable, or on purpose or maybe not. And there are many things that are very weird, And there are many things that are very weird because they are trying to hide at the beginning the fact that they are very racist, and they are trying to take over his mind and body in a way. And so you can't relate. There is the way they build the horror is built of something that is very realistic. It's very smart and intelligent, but in that case it's a kind of a um, something about our uh, life. But you can't build something that is horrific. Let's look at David Lynch and Fire Walk with Me. You can't build this weird case about this hellish journey into a nightmare, the last days of Laura Palmer, and you get dragged into this world because it's so weird and eclectic and alive, and you are curious, and it's an horror after another, and you keep falling down this rabbit hole following this girl and what is happening to her, and you understand that she's not a bad person per se. She just fell into this loop of abuse, and she is a very good person, but she was dragged into this is kind of horrorish rabbit hole, and she's dragged into it because she's like a martyr. She needs to endure this suffer because she was kind of chosen by evil in order to kind of uh, being tortured and then kind of reborn to be a sort of a saint for the greater good, to fight evil and kind of have this battle. Okay, you can read so many things, but the way the horror is built, even if it's not related to I don't know, connection to something that David Lynch want to criticize by society, but the relationship with her dad, the relationship with her, with the town, the relationship with Bob, and those um, kind of figure from the Red Room, and everything that happened in Silent Hill, and in Silent Hill, so sorry, in Twin Peaks, and the way Twin Peaks is shaped, and the way reality start to fade away after minute by minute, it's so compelling that you follow the whole thing. Okay, but plus it's built in a way where reality starts to fade away at some point, and you start to get along with the horror because you start to be dragged into the psychology of the story. I mean, the way, the logic of the story, not the psychology, the logic of the story. So you get along with it. But in this movie, there is nothing like that. They try to build a romance between those two characters, and it doesn't work. It's just plain and bland, and you don't care. And the horror itself is supposed to be a psychological horror, but it's not, because you understand that they wanted to make something that had, like in a David Lynch movie, many level of many layers. Speaking of how you can read the character and what happened to them, even what happened to James, but they didn't took the right leap of faith because he has a psychologist, and at some point you kind of understand that it's kind of everything in his head is true but it's not, is real but it's not, and he's just crazy but at the same time is real, and it's like he's triggering this uh, alternative reality but is still stuck into the real life, and it's very boring. It's very bland. When you try to blend reality and non-reality in this way, you're going to fail, because tales are very interesting when you leave behind reality, when you start to go beyond. We can talk about In the Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter. It's a movie that leaves reality behind. Fire Walk with Me by David Lynch. There are movies like even I Saw the TV Glow. It's a brilliant movie, and it's a movie where realities kind of start to slip away right away from the start. But in this case, when you try to keep both things alive, you're gonna fail, because the audience doesn't buy both of them You have to pick one. Also because it's an horror, so you gotta pick wherever you are going. You can't keep both alive. Or you go in a direction, or you go into another. Or you make an horror movie that it's more grounded, or you make an horror movie that goes way beyond. And when it goes way beyond, you gotta leave something behind. I mean, you gotta give up the idea of shaping a rational explanation. And here I'm gonna start to talk about also how Stephen King, there is a quote in Alan Wake, the start of this video game, from Stephen King, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was in something in the line of a nightmare exists outside the realm of reality or real logic, because explanation are not funny; they are antithetical to the poetry of terror, something like that, and it's true. It's true. Giving rational explanation in an horror film, it's so fucking boring. It's not nice. Sometimes there are some movies that they try to, like Get Out, it's really grounded, or like Romero film, that it's an horror but it's really grounded in something you want to say about the real world. Okay, but at the same time, if in Get Out you had the in-depth explanation of the, let's say that the magical element of the film, the fantastic element of the film, would be so freaking boring and annoying, because it's gonna take out the mystery that makes it work. Okay, so, and Stephen King gives us a rule that it's very important, because sometimes you want to just have a decent horror story. You want to escape reality with something that is completely bonkers, not in a bad way, but nonsense. I want something that doesn't make any sense. Speaking of the rule of my word, because something that many people misunderstood about fiction is that the rule of fiction are not the rule of our reality. The rule of fiction are the rules set by the tale itself. Some rule can be the same of our reality, but some will not. And in this case, in the case of something like this movie, Silent Hill, or stuff like that, when you have a main character that tries too hard to kind of maintain a grasp of reality and look for explanation, you kind of fucked up the whole movie, because it doesn't work. You need to have someone that just accept the rule of that word fully. It doesn't try to give to the audience a resemblance of what they would think in real life. That is what will work. And here it doesn't, because we have so many moments where reality kicks back in. Like, for example, there is a scene of him finding the letter. It's a sort of a flashback, if I remember correctly, because he comes back home drunk, and he keeps drinking, and he's sitting on his on a chair in his living room, and then the bottle slipped from his hand, rolls in the living room, and he finds the letters. And when he finds the letters, even if it's blind drunk, the situation is whatever it is, he took the letter, he bolts from the door, and he checked the stairs like if somebody has come in and left the letter there. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. It's broken. The whole scene is broken, and the whole movie is broken in the same way, because you're trying to give to that character that is supposed to be blind drunk an explanation, a kind of grasp to reality, to give them an explanation. Oh, who gives this letter? Who left this letter here? The mise-en-scene of the whole thing is broken, is bad. And moving forward, speaking of the movie as a visual quality, the flashback of the love story, because we start from the flashback, they are so overexposed, they are so the colors are so bright, they look like a telenovela, like one of those, like, beautiful, the how is called in English, the Damn and the Beautiful, I don't remember, but anyway, those telenovelas that you see on television, everything is so overexposed, the colors are so bright, their relationship is so cheesy, and people don't talk like that in real life when they have a relationship. And even the flashback when he kills his wife is supposed to be something on an emotional level very heavy. Instead, everything is white, it's so bright, it's annoyingly bright. And it's a contrast that it's not interesting with what it's doing. It also has this frame with the frame beard, that the fake beard that's everywhere on the internet, and it's so hilarious. When I watch it in the movie, you can see that beard is super fake, and I don't get how it is possible. Also because you can't put a fake beard on the actor for whatever reason. Change it. It looks too fake on camera. You must have seen on set that it was super fake. Change it. Arrange his hair in a different way. You need not that much to change the character appearance. You don't need to put a fake beard on his face. You change the mise en scene. Even in this small decision, I can see how bad is Christopher Gans as a director. And the movie is so, I mean, cheap. Even in the framing, when Silent Hill changes and turning into this horrorish kind of town where everything is red, the CGI is so poor and so badly used. I mean, the movie cost like less than 30 million. You could have done way better with that budget. There are movies made with way less than that budget that are way better. You didn't need that much CGI. You needed way less, but you needed to write a good movie. That is the problem from the start. And there are so many scenes that are meaningless. And the fact is that they want to make it this psychological horror, and psychological horror most of the time are made by powerful images, something that on a visual level, it's very hunting, and sometimes the poetry of the whole experience, it's through images, and here is not. For example, I'm making one last example before moving forward with something else, because I want to talk to you about how bad it is as an adaptation. Even if you don't care about gaming, I'm gonna give you a glimpse of what it is, Silent Hill 2 as an horror story, and you will understand how bad it is, this adaptation, even if you don't care about gaming. But anyway, there is a scene where he drives this car in the river, in the lake. It's a lake, it's not a river. And the framing of this scene is so bad. The composition, it's really bad, because you see the car sink. It's all in CG. It's terrible. The car sinks in, and it's a wide shot, and you see the bottom of the lake, the car gently stopping on the bottom, and you see the piers from where the car jumped, and it's there. It's like a 4 meter deep lake. And it's bonkers, not because it's not that deep, because if you put on screen in the composition the bottom of the lake and the car and the pier, and it's all there, it's like a shallow lake, the whole poetry goes away. It's gone. It's not that impactful. You know what would have been way more dramatic and way more interesting if for once we don't see the pier, we just see a wide shot of the car sinking in the lake, and we see a bottomless lake. Because again, it's an horror. We're talking about a psychological horror, and an horror where supposedly, allegedly, in the way it's sold to the audience, but then it doesn't go full in that direction, is supposed to be a place where reality kind of doesn't exist in the way we perceive it. So, wide shot, just water. Like there is a similar shot in the game, just a central light. Everything is darkness kind of around, different shade, going from green to darker tone of black. Okay, and we have these lights coming from in the center. The car starts goes down and down and slowly and slowly and slowly, and we have maybe this voiceover that there is at the end or something that, but not that terrible shot in CG that is horrible, and the car going down, going down, going down in a lake that is bottomless, and what we see just nothing. Black is going towards the emptiness of the black, of the unknown. It's still kind of a cliche shot, but it's way better than putting a shallow lake 4 meter deep with just a bottom and a car just stopping on the bottom, sadness, and just main character letting himself die in a very cheesy way. He looks at the wife in the mirror. It's so stupid. There is no poetry, there is no drama, there is nothing. It's just empty. But now I want to continue. Telling you why the source material was so good and it was basically impossible to make a really bad movie, but they did it anyway. So in Silent Hill 2, it's way more interesting what happened. Because first things first, we have as well this character James, that at the beginning we understand that he lost his wife 3 years prior, and 3 years after her tragic death due to a disease, an illness, he receives a letter. He says that he receives a letter from the deceased's wife, and she's telling him to go to Silent Hill because she's there, she's waiting for him, and she needs him to be there to collect her. She's waiting for him. And Silent Hill is this place where they fell in love, where they have so many memories. And the great thing about the movie is that the way Silent Hill, basically in every game, the second one, I think it's the far most superior game compared to all of them. Because Silent Hill, it's just a sort of a place where everything that those characters have inside comes to life in a horrorish way. So it's a manifestation of what they have inside, and it's taking a toll of them. Because the good thing is that every monsters, everything that we see in Silent Hill, it's a manifestation of what they really have inside. And basically the thing is that we have those layers where at the beginning we have this main character, James, that is presented even with the interaction that he has with other characters around Silent Hill. We perceive him as a very good and kind person that is very sad because of this thing that happened to him, because he was very in love with his wife, and it's very dreadful, it's super sad, it's very everything is black and gray and sad, and we feel for him. But moving forward, because right from the start we have some stuff that we perceive as a sort of a half-truth, Silent Hill, with everything that is trying to manifest, with everything that is trying to present to the main character, it's like if the main character is living this horror because it's basically facing the truth about himself, about what actually happened, about everything that he doesn't want to acknowledge about himself. And so the main character is living something horrific that is going to tell him who he is truly and the price that he has to pay according to what he will decide to do, journeying into Silent Hill. And this thing will never stop till he hasn't reached the very end of his journey, so the full truth, till he hasn't accepted the whole truth about himself. Okay? And it's very meaningful, and it's very inspired. When they create Silent Hill, it was heavily inspired by David Lynch. He is a master of psychological horror, and I mean there is more Silent Hill in Eraserhead or Inland Empire or Lost Highway than in this film, because it's very symbolic. Dialogue, they don't explain much. Wherever you find, wherever you live, the symbolism, the monster, they are the actual uh, plot in motion. And the more you get deep into it, the more you get you have chance to understand the mystery. But the thing that I love the most about Silent Hill is that nothing is really explained per se. There is no big exposition. Like in a David Lynch movie, there is a huge mystery, you have all the element, you gotta draw your own conclusion. Okay? The movie has answers. You just need to pay attention and sink into the thing, and then draw your own conclusion. And that's amazing. And that's why people love it. And that's why so many people spend an enormous amount of hours to analyze the different mysteries inside Silent Hill, because it's full of symbolism and it's very compelling the way it's built. So the thing that it's amazing, the difference between the game and the adaptation is that, for example, the beginning of the game has a very clever way to convey this kind of horror, because in the movie we start with those amazing bright memories and stuff like that. In the game we start from a toilet. It's a rest area on this vista on Silent Hill, on a road that basically leads to Silent Hill. James is inside this toilet. The room is dark, is very wear down, everything is broken. It's horrible, it's disgusting. There is just one light over his head, his eyes are covered by a shadow. He's looking himself into the mirror, he's standing at his hands, because you can understand that there is already a struggle for this guy. And at the beginning you think that the struggle is the fact that he's dealing with the passing of his wife, or at least you don't know it yet because he is about to tell you about this, but you feel that this character is hiding something, is going through something. And when he exits the toilet and we see this first glimpse on this road, we see the road is leading into a tunnel, and the tunnel is like something that the military could have closed long ago, because it's like in a state of abandonment, like if the city was abandoned 20 years prior. And you can see this tunnel completely closed, you can't move forward, and it's the only access road to Silent Hill. He has the car, he's parked, James' car is parked on this resting area, and it's rusty and it's old, and everything is covering this thick fog, and he just go towards this vista, and then you have this voiceover telling about the wife that died 3 years ago, and then that he received a letter, and you have the voiceover on the wife reading the letter out loud and saying, I'm here to have a special place, Silent Hill, I'm stuck here, please come here. This introduction is brilliant because you have all the information you need about the character, and plus you have a complete disconnection from reality, because from that moment on, there is the only way to access Silent Hill is a small stairs that goes down towards a walk in the woods that leads to Silent Hill. That's the only way you can access down, since the tunnel is closed. But the fact that the tunnel is closed in that way, the fog, the dreadful situation, the way that the toilet is completely destroyed and ruined, it's not like, oh, it's an abandoned place. You have a feeling that the second you're going down that stairs, reality is going to disappear. In a way, you doubt reality itself. You have a grasp on something that you go like, this can't be actually real. This is something else. This is a sort of a third space. And in a way, Silent Hill, it is a third space, a third dimension. A sort of a alternative place that it's just for James and those characters that interact with Silent Hill in a way. Because they need to face their own reality, something that they have inside. And since reality, as we perceive it, is completely shut off, we are accepting wherever it's come after. I mean, we completely accept whatever is coming from that moment on. The second we start to walk down Silent Hill, because um, we completely numb ourselves from every sort of idea of logic of what is real or what a person will do in that situation, because the character itself from that moment on will step into a character that in the movie is put in scene like a cosplay, but as a cheap cosplay, but as something that is very cheeky. But anyway, the first interaction that he has with someone and the first interaction itself with the town is so out of this world that if you think about with the same logic that you think about a guy who lost a girlfriend or whatever and is going back to the town to collect them, you will say, no, 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 just go back. Just leave. Take the car and leave. It doesn't make any sense. In this way, instead, it makes sense. Because anyway, the way the character is behaving is like if he's accepting whatever monster or horrible thing is fine in front of him. And the same for the other character. They are behaving in a way that it's completely nonsense because they are like in hell. And you go like, why they do this? Because it's reality for them. It is what it is. They're not afraid of it. They're not scared. They're just living in this thing. And that's their reality. And you accept it. And you're just drowned. You're drowning with the main character in this rabbit hole, or horrific rabbit hole, in this descent to hell. And you just follow them because you're curious, because you want to understand whatever it is, and you want to see more, even if it's scary. And that's way more interesting. That's mystery. That's what is compelling. Even in the game, you keep exploring, even if it's weird, even if it's scary, even if it's dangerous. And what is more interesting about the game, sorry if I'm gonna tell stuff that are related to the game, maybe you wanna, I have to spoil a little bit the game to make you understand it a little bit. I'm not gonna spoil the main plot, but the thing is that there are many theories about Silent Hill, about this third place, and one of the theory, because there are many indications that this could be the case, is the fact that James has been there for a while. The fact that he has been there already, he just doesn't remember it. So when you go through the town and through stuff, you just have those indication that maybe he left some messages. Maybe there are traces of himself already been there. I'm being very vague because otherwise it's super spoiling. But anyway, it's amazing that, as I said before, Silent Hill won't let him go. It looks like he won't let him go till he has finished his journey and understood the whole truth about himself. And he has to keep doing it. It's like, when you have a recurring nightmare and you keep having the same nightmare over and over and over and over and over. But usually, when you have those, at least I have those kind of lucid dreams. At some point, you go like, okay, I'm in a dream. Okay, you have conscious that you are in a dream, and you can do kind of some stuff. But at the same time, the plot is the same as the last time. There was a period in time where I keep having the same dream, and the plot was the same, and it was frustrating because every time I was changing something, but in the end was the same. The outcome was the same, and it was frustrating. And I was waking up, not terrified because it wasn't a nightmare, but it was something that I had this sense of dread and sadness for at least half of the morning. And nowadays, till now, after months that I haven't had those dreams, sometimes I think about it, and it was so real and so compelling that I have this feeling of sadness that keeps following me. And it's about people that I never met in real life. It's about a person that lives in that space, And every time I have this feeling like if I know that person, and I don't remember the whole thing because your brain kind of erased big part of those dreams. You don't remember the whole things. But I know that there are details that I don't remember about the whole thing that are haunting me. And Silent Hill, it's pretty similar, but you remember everything as a player, or at least as a player. Sorry, it's wrong. As a player, you have the evidence of your previous dream in a way to keep on with this parallel. You have evidence of your previous dream and what you have done previously with different outcome because you haven't reached the end, and you kind of connecting the dots, at least as an audience. The main character is kind of not connecting it because is kind of refusing it, whatever he's living, till some point. Toward the end, is kind of accepting whatever it is, and he's starting to discover something about himself, or at least acknowledge them. And you, as an audience, as a player, you start to change your mind for the main character. You start about the main character. You start to say, this guy is not actually a good guy. He's a bad, in a way, he's a bad guy. He's a bad person, at least. He has done something very despicable. He has done something that I don't agree with because it's terrible. But anyway, I have to keep going because the whole thing is already punishing this guy. And it's so interesting and compelling, as I said. And the thing that keeps you attached to it is the fact that you are not per se disgusted by it, but you want to know the full extent of what he has done. And you have those secondary character that has story where they are victims or where they are the abuser, but anyway, they have stuff that haunts them, and they can be someone who needs protection or someone who is a menace, something that can hurt you, or sometimes they're just a sort of someone that will walk with you towards the journey. And one of them specifically, it's like of the incarnation of something really bad that your character has done, and you keep going to have this character with you, and your character is like accepting this whole logic, this whole reality. And when you find traces of the memory that you have with your wife in Silent Hill, those memories are never bright, are dreadful. When you have those memories, Silent Hill looks like pretty much the same as the one you are living in. Because this character doesn't know joy, doesn't know colors, doesn't know the only thing that he knows is regret and the extent of the bad stuff that he has done. So it's really terrible. In a way, it's really dreadful, and it's amazing. It's a very compelling story, horror story. Most the way you have those how can I say, those representation. I love, for example, in the movie there are stuff that doesn't make any sense. In the movie there is a scene of Pyramid Head, for example. It's a great manifestation. The way Pyramid is dealt in the movie, it's completely nonsense. It's not completely nonsense. It's just shallow. It's not interesting. But in the game, Pyramid Head, at some point he does something that it's very horrific. That they done the same in the movie, but the movie it's like just a horror scene. That's it. There is no meaning. But in the game, there is this scene where he takes this kind of monster that has the appearances of a woman, and there is a violent scene, let's say in broadly. In the game, it's very horrific because you start to understand who Pyramid is and what he's doing. Because the fact that in Silent Hill every monster except from Pyramid Head is a woman has a meaning. It's a reflection of what James has inside. And some of those kind of character are kind of sexy in a way. For example, the nurses, they have a short skirt and stuff like that because they're a manifestation of some stuff that James had inside of him. And they make sense. They absolutely make sense. And the fact that this pyramid head is acting in that way toward that monster, it's another reflection of what James truly is. And it's horrifying. Like, for example, there is another monster that has been kind of, speaking of just merely design, translated well in the movie, but doesn't have any meaningful attachment, because there is this girl that you meet in the cemetery in Silent Hill, and even in the movie he met at the beginning. Her story is like that she's trapped there because she was victim of abuse from her father. And one of the monsters is basically, it's a bed, a mattress with a person and then another person on top. So you can figure it out what the monster is. It's pretty explicit in this case. But anyway, in the way it's portrayed in the movie, it's just for the sake of, oh, let's make a reference to the game. And there are many things that are like that. Let's make a reference to the game because the gamers are stupid and they're gonna clap because it's like the game. But it doesn't make any sense because there is no emotional and dramatic kind of attachment. There is no build. It's not built as a horrific in his poetry according to what's happening to those characters and in Silent Hill. So the design is there, but everything else is not. It doesn't make any sense. And in the game, that scene, it's very impactful. Whatever happened to this character and her own hell, it's very impactful. And it's very impactful when you understand whatever James has done, because he's helping this girl. But at the same point, it's like the guy has done kind of really bad stuff. He's kind of helping her because his basing humanity is supposed to lead him to help her, but he's not a good person, because then his actual humanity, what he has done as James, led him to do something very horrible to his own wife. And morally speaking, he has no higher ground. But the thing is that all those layers that are so compelling and interesting in the movie are not there. They're completely gone. And that's why, even as an adaptation, it's bad. Because I saw even an interview of Christoph Gans. And in the interview, if you know the game, you can clearly see that he misunderstood the whole thing. He doesn't get he doesn't get even the psychological horror. Watching the game and then you watch the movie, you clearly understand that he changed big part of the movie, of the story, for once, because he misunderstood the whole thing. And second layer, second reason why he changed the whole thing, it's because probably he has no clue how to direct a psychological horror. He has not the talent and the means, and he's not good enough. Because this was supposed to be a kind of Lynchian movie in a way. And he's not, because he's not good enough, because he can't make one of those. He simply can't. And so the whole movie, it's full of cliche, and is so desperately I don't know, it's cliche, it's basic, it's so annoying in a way, because the story is not that interesting, because his own director is like that. He has no artistic vision whatsoever. It just bland. That's what it is. He's bland. And his vision of Silent Hill is bland because it doesn't get the complexity of the story. And the story has every sort of potentiality to be a great story. I mean, let's think about many other directors out there. They could have made a way more compelling horror story with the same budget and using the budget properly, because basically the only location that you need is Silent Hill. That's it. You don't need other location. You need basically a bunch of actors that are the main character. Let's say 5 actors that are the main character, and then you need the monsters, and most of them can be achieved with practical effect without using an insane amount of CGI. I mean, the problem is that here is first with the screenplay, because it's completely it's bland, it's cliche, it's not interesting. Also because the original Silent Hill, I mean, the most interesting, the most, let's say, cheerful ending, it's still pretty dark. But the actual endings of Silent Hill, except for the one that are there as a joke, because they make kind of funny endings with aliens and stuff like that. But that's a kind of an inside joke of the developers. But anyway, the ending of Silent Hill, it's not a nice ending. It's not a movie. It's not a story with an happy ending. The movie has a very happy ending, very bright. And that's not the case of Silent Hill. The story is completely misunderstood. Artistically, he's not there as a director. He can't direct this movie. He's not able to. And I think also the problem is that in the previous movie, the story was more straightforward. Because what he has done, the other mistake that he has done is that he took the same logic on the first movie and he applied to this one. But this one is a completely different story. Because in the first movie, it's pretty similar to the video game. The only thing that they change is that basically in the video game there is a father looking for a daughter. In the movie it's a mother looking for a daughter, because the relationship, it's more in a way solid, let's say, and it makes kind of sense. Speaking of the adaptation, and I kind of agree with that decision, because when you translate those kind of story from a medium to another, you gotta make those adjustments sometimes, because you can have a different effect on the audience because the medium are different. So I'm aware the fact that there are some stuff that are gonna be lost in translation, but in this case was a straightforward psychological horror, and the thing that he needed to do was to do a Lynchian movie, or a movie that it's like, as I said, in the mouth of madness. Something where reality is bending over and over and disappearing. You gotta quickly leave reality behind and transport your audience for a couple of hours into a nightmarish rabbit hole. That's what you need to do with Silent Hill. The first movie worked because I think we had James Avery as a screenwriter, and I think because Guns was very lucky with the production that he had around. They were investing a lot of money. They gave him good people to support whatever he was doing, and the movie worked because it was also, as a kind of horror, more simple. Of course, Silent Hill had the because in Silent Hill 2 there is no cult basically taking over the wife, or what. There is nothing like that. It's just that he has done something to the wife. It's all about that. There is no cult. Plus, he brought back the idea of the ashes raining down on Silent Hill. He brought back the idea that there is this siren and changed the whole thing in an horrific kind of scenario. It's just plain wrong. And it took one of the most brilliant horror story ever told, and he turned into something very cheap and uninspired and bland and cheesy in some parts. So that it is. That's it. That's it. There is nothing more we can say about it. It's very out there. And I mean, in this case, I think that it's very mature to say, oh, the video games nerd are at it again because they ruined their. I mean, the main story, the actual source material is so good that you had to be very dumb to make a bad movie. It's like for The Last of Us, the source material is so good that it's very difficult to make a bad adaptation. That's why I think that season 2 is not that bad. There are things that I don't agree with as well, but in general term, it's a good adaptation. I think that in this case, they should have picked another director. They should have picked another screenwriter because and they should have picked another production company, because the production company involved in this project is the same company that produced Hellboy: The Crooked Man. It's the same production company that produced Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. It's the same production company that produced Red Sonja, The Crow. They have a small part in the Crow, the one that they make a couple of years back, and it's horrible. I mean, it's a production company that it wasn't supposed to touch this movie. For once, they needed to, I don't say go big, because A24, it's an indie production company that went big recently with a couple of projects, but still with a manageable budget. And they could have give a good budget to a Silent Hill adaptation, and they could have obtained a director that was way more into the source material. I think they could have done that. I believe that. This time they should have gone for an A24 kind of production, or at least, I don't know, Blue Mouse. At least Blue Mouse. Try to get Blue Mouse to produce this, at least. But the production that they chose was the worst. And I think that they made every single mistake that you can possibly make on the book. They made all of them. And the result is this movie that is a very bad and forgettable movie as a movie per se, and as an adaptation is terrible. It's awful. It's insane how bad it is. So this is what I think about Return to Silent Hill. Next time I want to talk to you about 20 years later, and 20 years later The Bone Temple, since I watched recently The Bone Temple. I will try to talk to you about No Other Choice that I watched a couple of 10 days ago. Watch it. I couldn't manage to record an episode, but it's a brilliant movie. But I will try to bring you something interesting on that side as well. So, guys, follow the podcast, subscribe, vote the podcast. Let me know what you think about this in the comment. Let's connect and have a chat. I'm curious to read your point of view about what we discuss in the episode. Anyway, everyone, have a good day. Bye bye.